So you want to know if you are either self-employed or a business owner. So today what I do want to talk about a little bit more is the key differences between someone who's self-employed and someone who's a business owner. And this video is just to help you make that decision or kind of just see if you are a business owner or self-employed. And it kind of helps you see what do you have to start doing to become a business owner if that is your goal. So I do want to jump right into it and kind of just look at first what is someone who is self-employed and what does it kind of like look like to be one. So a self-employed person usually owns a job. So they own the job because they are the business. So they are the reason the business is even making any income. Now, when it comes to the workings of the business, usually a self-employed person, they directly perform the service or create the product. A good example would be like barbers, nail techs. They are the service, they create the service or they create the product. Now, income is usually tied to time. So if you're self-employed, you usually still trade in your time for money. That's kind of just how it is. So generally, you earn income based on you actively working, how much time you spend actually doing the job, right? For example, a freelance graphic designer is someone who handles all the client's work personally. So they do everything. They work with the client, they manage the client, they kind of talk to the client, and they kind of just do everything on their own. For me, for example, I used to be a digital, like into digital design. I got hired by a city to redesign their school district logo and their flags. So I had to talk to them, kind of just I was guided by them, what they wanted, what they didn't want to happen, and but I was managing my own time, practically just working on my own, but on the project. And well, I did have another partner, but it was just me and them, kind of just doing it on our own. Now, when it comes to the decision making, typically a self-employed makes all the decisions. Like I said, they're the ones that talk to the clients, make the decisions, the time frame. They practically are the ones that are deciding how things are going to work. Now, the asset value when it comes to a self-employed, a self-employed business is very limited without the individual, because without the individual, there isn't any money going to be really coming in if you're not the one like working it or actually showing up. So think of it like this, right? If a self-employed person takes a vacation for a month, the business income typically just stops completely. So if you were to take a vacation for 1 month, would you still be making money or would it just stop right away? If the money stops right away, it's because you're still self-employed. If you are able to leave and still make some money, then that is a little bit more on the business aspect. So these are just some key characteristics of what it looks like to have a self-employed business. Now, what I do want to look at right now is what is it like to be the actual business owner. So a business owner, they just own a system. So they're the ones that actually own the system. Um, they own the business. So practically they aren't the business, but they own the business. Now, usually a business owner works on the business. So they just focus on the strategy, the actual growth in the systems within the company, right? But they're not really too focused on the actual doing, the client parts, or sometimes even doing the tasks because they have other team members or workers that are doing that kind of for them. Now, as a business owner, the income is scalable, so they are able to earn money even without having to personally show up or work. Now, a good example is that if you know someone or if you used to work at a Walmart, McDonald's, H&M, whatever, like those type of stores, have you ever seen the actual owner of the store show up or have you ever met them? Most cases not, or maybe you've seen them here and there, but typically they don't really show up every day, barely, maybe even rarely every month or so. But they are still able to make money without having to physically even be there, right? Okay, an example of an business owner, right? Think of it as an owner of a design agency who employs multiple designers. So in this case, right, let's say that I was to hire or bring in or even recruit other graphic designers. They would come in, be part of the team. I would maybe bring in clients and help the client and give them, the clients to work with. So that would kind of be the business aspect where even if I'm not showing up, I still have other graphic designers that are helping out the client, still doing in the work and, still making some type of revenue. Now, the asset value when it comes to a business is very significant and very independent of, the actual owner. So the value doesn't really depend on the person, but the business has its own value because they don't need you to run it. Like this, like the system is gonna run itself. You don't have to really show up. You don't have to physically be there. Why? Because the system is already growing. It's already managing. So think of it like this. If a business owner takes a vacation for a month, the business continues to operate and it's going to generate revenue no matter what, even if you like it or not, because that's the whole point of a business, is having a system that's working the business, right? Now, a visual metaphor is a car versus transportation company. Think of it like this. Think of Uber, right? Now, Uber is the actual company, the actual business that they created a system where they hire or recruit other drivers without having to invest in the cars, without having to invest of an actual building. It's all online. So what does Uber do? Uber hires other drivers, and the drivers, they are the self-employed. Why? Because they're the ones who choose when they work, what time, and what days, and they only get paid only when they're out there actually helping their families out, or even like, driving someone to their destination. While the owner of Uber doesn't have to do anything. They never show up, they never even meet the workers nor the actual clients. So revenue is being made passively without having to even physically be there. So now the transition path, right? What do you have to do to transfer from a self-employed person to a business owner? And let's look at this, because look, many entrepreneurs start as self-employed and then they gradually start growing to business owners if that's kind of what the goal is and if that's what they want to do. So the first thing first, if you want to transition from self-employed to a business owner, is developing a system and processes that don't require your own personal involvement. So practically what you want to have is a team with a system where they are working, generating you revenue even without you having to even show up or even be there. Now, two, hiring and training team members to handle day-to-day operations. So what you want to focus on is obviously the members, the team, because I used to wrestle, right? And even if I won my match, I can win my match, but if my team didn't win their matches, then we lost the whole tournament, right? The championship. So I can win a game, but if my team doesn't, then we lose the championship. So practically, when it comes to a business, it's not just about you, but it's about your team. It's about the leadership role and how are you managing that team and how are you helping them grow? Because if they grow, your business is going to grow. Three, creating passive income streams and scalable business models. So a lot of these things kind of look as the actual system itself where you don't show up, but money is still being made. There's different ways of doing it depending on what your niche is or what you're doing. It could look a little bit differently, but the main goal is to start making passive income, start making money without having to physically work for it. Four, focusing on more on strategy and growth than the daily production. So as a business owner, you're focused more on the actual growth than the actual revenue or production that's coming in. Why? Because a business owner understands that if their team grows, if their process is expanding and it grows, then income is going to grow no matter what. So that's why they focus more on the systems, because the income is going to come a little bit later on. Now, number five is building a business identity separate from their personal identity. So a self-employed person is gonna build a self, like I guess you could talk like a self identity where if you were a nail tech, right? Or if you were a barber, a lot of your first few clients are gonna be your friends and family. Why? Because they know you and they trust you and they understand that you're going through the process. So that is where the self identity comes in, where a lot of people are coming to you at first, not only because of the skills or the product or the service itself, but because of who you are and your identity. Now, when it comes to a business, right, not only are you going to transfer part of your identity to that business, but the business itself has to have its own identity. So what does the business stand for? What does the business do? What is happening within the business, right? So that's something you also want to start looking into, where you, not just you are, building a personal brand, but your business has a personal brand on its own. And typically a business kind of just has it on its own. You don't have to focus on building one. As long as you're focusing on what you believe in, then it's naturally going to start building a personal brand. Now, so neither approach is like better. Like it does, being self-employed isn't better than business owner. Business owner isn't better than self-employed. Obviously, each one has its pros and cons, but depending on what you want to do in life, depending on what your goal in life is going to depend if you're going to become a business owner or a self-employed. But either way, both of them are good. You're still in charge of your own time. It's just some differences might be the income and obviously the job itself and the management part. So some questions to consider, right? So this is kind of for you to start thinking for yourself. Now, if you disappear for 3 months, would your business still exist? So if you were to disappear to vacation, Bora Bora, or wherever for 3 months, is your business still going to be existing, right? Okay, second question to ask yourself, does your income directly correlate with the hours that you work? If that's a yes, then that's more self-employed, because the more hours you put in, the more income you make. That's generally self-employed because you're working, you're still trading time for money. Now, third thing that we could ask, right, that you start asking yourselves is that, are you building systems or are you just completing tasks? So if you look at your daily schedule, do you have something that's creating a system where the business starts building itself? Or are you just completing daily tasks, helping out clients, creating projects and doing, those projects for the clients itself? That's something that you can start thinking about a little bit more too. Some fourth thing that you start asking yourself is, could someone buy your business and run it even without you? So is someone able to buy it and not even need you to run it? A good example would be like YouTubers, right? So for YouTubers, let's say that you buy a big Mr. Beast YouTube channel, but without Mr. Beast's face, then the YouTube channel isn't gonna run itself. So in that case, it wouldn't work. Someone could buy the channel, but without the face of Mr. Beast, then it's not gonna run. It's not gonna be the same. It's just gonna be very weird and probably start losing its viewers and thus the business. So last thing you could start asking yourself is, are you making a strategic decision or just mostly an operational one, right? When it comes to the business side of it, everything is strategy. Same thing with self-employed, but it's more of building a system, building a strategy where you don't have to do most of the work, but it kind of runs itself because you have a team. Where in operational, self-employed, you're just thinking about the everyday operations of what you're going to do, what the schedule is going to look like, and kind of what are the tasks you have to handle for that day. So these are some questions you can start asking yourself. It's going to help you really understand where you are in the spectrum. Now, like I said, there's nothing completely different between being self-employed and business owner. Maybe some key details, but like I said, depending on what you want to accomplish and what the main goal is going to help you determine what you want to do now. So I hope this video was helpful. I hope that you're able to take something out of this and kind of really look into what it is that you want to build. And if you haven't started building anything now, you're still going to have to start self-employed, but then as long as you're working to the business part, then you're gonna have a system working on its own. But my name was Josue Orozco, right? I've been in business for a little bit more than 2 years, and I had to struggle a lot, and I also had to learn, how to create a system, how to manage a team, and it wasn't easy, but I was able to do it. So now I have a financial agency. We kind of just focus on helping people out. But other than that, I hope that you guys enjoyed. If you did enjoy, please like and subscribe, and we'll see you guys in the next video.